consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Welcome to Accelerated Health Radio on W4HC Radio, where you can learn to accelerate your body, mind, and spirit to reclaim the true potential that exists within you through cutting-edge wellness, tools, and modalities. Here's your host, Sara Banta.
Welcome to Accelerated Health Radio. I'm your host, Sara Banta, and I'm a health coach, natural supplement expert, a busy mom of 3 teenagers. I'm the founder of Accelerated Health Products, where I specialize in helping people like you detox and rebuild your immune system, increase your energy physically and mentally, and provide specialized protocols for your individual issues. If you're new to this channel and you like what you hear today, please hit subscribe and share with others, as I truly believe I can change the world with your help. I believe that your body does want to and is capable of rebuilding and healing itself, regardless of what chronic disease you may have. And I'm here for you to answer your questions and bring you innovative and cutting-edge technologies and health solutions to empower you and your ability to optimize your state. And excuse me, hold on 1 second. So sorry about that. Today, we're doing something a little different and simulcasting with Jason Goodman from Crowdsource the Truth. So welcome to all of Jason's followers. Jason's an internationally acclaimed filmmaker and stereoscopic cinematographer. Crowdsource the Truth turns the page on traditional journalism by combining it with social media and reality television. He goes places and asks questions that mainstream media simply can't go, and he puts himself in the line of danger, as he did last night. Welcome, Jason. How are you this morning?
I'm well, Sarah. Thank you. And to be clear, I'm not trying to put myself in the line of danger, but it seems that danger has arrived in basically every neighborhood in the United States of America. It's shocking.
It is shocking. Last time we talked was March 11th on episode 24 of Accelerated Health Radio, if your listeners or my listeners missed it and want to go back. And we were just entering into quarantine, questioning the motives and the truths about what was behind the virus. And now here we are. The virus is gone, supposedly, and we're here with the riots and everyone feeling unsettled, not safe, and wondering who's telling the truth and what lies are being told. Where do you see us right now? You're walking the streets of New York City, and you're seeing the heartbeat of what's really going on.
Yeah, I think we're in a terrible place, Sarah. It's a major concern. And as you pointed out, when we had our last conversation, we had public health officials and lawmakers telling us that this was the most serious virus since the Spanish flu. Hundreds of thousands or even millions of people could be affected and even potentially die from this thing. And the second they started saying that, I just had this thought in my mind. If 3 or 4 months from now, if a whole lot of people are not dead, these politicians are going to have a lot of questions to answer. And it's amazing how they continue to shape the story. As recently as yesterday, Andrew Cuomo was praising how we defeated coronavirus by staying home. He didn't entertain at all the possibility that these statistics and figures calculated by this guy, Neil Ferguson, could have been wrong from the beginning.
Yeah. Just in my town, my mayor essentially said, I don't believe what's going on here. The death rate in our town is 0.0009 or something. It's something ridiculous. And what's really killing this country is the fear. And the fear-based, the stress and the mental anxiety and the suicides and the financial stress. And we all are experiencing this stress. There's no way around it. So what I'm trying to do is help people manage their stress, because what people don't realize, just to get a little more health detailed, is when you are stressed, your adrenals release cortisol, which is the stress hormone, which is natural and a good thing if you're being chased by a tiger. But chronic stress stresses the adrenals, and then the adrenals are sitting on top of the kidneys. The kidneys are your life force. So when the kidneys get inflamed and your life force is drained, and it increases your blood sugar without eating any sugar. People don't understand that when you're stressed, your blood sugar goes up no matter what. What does that cause? That causes type 2 diabetes or insulin resistance. And what do we know about the virus, and what the people that are most at risk are people with heart issues and diabetes. So here we are getting more sick just with the fear. And our immune systems are actually getting suppressed as we're staying home and not being exposed to those natural viruses and bacteria that we're used to getting exposed to.
Yeah.
So really, we need to just be managing that stress and using supplements and sleep and exercise and different modalities to keep that stress level down, the cortisol levels down. But it's easier said than done when now we've got riots in every single town, businesses that were barely making it try to open up, and then here we are, and they're being destroyed.
Yeah. And, it's interesting. A lot of people know that stress is bad for your health, but the way that you just explained it, it just caused me to think about it in a totally different way. I mean, you referred to my video yesterday where I really just wanted to document the destruction to the buildings because it really is unprecedented. It's shocking to see. And during that, there was a bit of an encounter with some Antifa types who were just rowdy, and they get angry that I'm filming on the street, which of course is totally within my rights to do, but it resulted in a really unpleasant confrontation. I mean, again, I was just out there documenting these boarded up businesses. I was speaking to these poor homeless guys, asking them if any of the Black Lives Matter protesters had helped them, if they felt that their Black lives mattered. And they said, no, people are just walking by them the whole time. But when I got home from this hour-long live stream, I literally felt sick. I had to lie down.
Oh, yeah, because when you are producing cortisol and you're being chased by that tiger, your digestive system shuts down because you don't want to eat, right? So your whole system turns around. So imagine someone with chronic stress, chronic cortisol being released, and then they try to eat and your system's not ready to eat. Well, then you're going to create digestive issues because your body's not set up to eat. Our ancestors would be chased by a tiger or go hunting for that piece of meat that they're going to eat, and then they'd relax for a couple days, feast on it, and they'd come off of that chronic stress and eat and digest, and then they would fast, and then they get ready to go again. But what we're experiencing is chronic stress. So even though you felt sick and you're relaxed and you're safe at home right now, there's still this feeling of I can't get out of it, and people are getting stuck in that fight or flight because we don't know what's coming next. Not only do we not know what's coming next, whether it's the riots coming to my town today, which is hopefully that doesn't happen, but I know there are protests set up, or it's, oh my gosh, do I not go outside because of the virus? Do I stand 6 feet away from people? Where's my mask? Now I'm hearing that a mask is not good for you. And by the way, it's not, because when you're breathing in your own air, it's not healthy. It's causing more health issues. And the mask is really there to make other people feel good. Well, now we're not even worried about the virus. And you see crowds within inches of each other, not social distancing. And I think for a lot of us who are just sitting home watching mainstream media, it's very confusing. So when you're confused, the fear and the stress are even more anxiety ridden. You're just more on pins and needles, and you don't know which way to turn. And it's so important to start really sitting down and having faith, and just whether you're religious or not, but just having faith that good is going to win in the end.
Yeah. And I mean, it's important to have that faith, but it's also important, I think, for people to take action. And I don't mean to suggest that people get out in the streets, but even just watching these videos, sharing these videos, thinking about these sort of things, writing letters to your mayor, your senator, the governor of your state. It's very important. But you raise an excellent point, Sarah. If people are going to be Marxist anarchists protesting in the street, burning police cars and destroying businesses, at least be sensible enough to be safe and wear a face mask. I mean, we wouldn't want anybody to get sick while they're out trying to destroy peaceful society. And it's not just me going out on the street being physically accosted by throngs of, teenage 20-year-old kind of totally ignorant to the recent past of the Weather Underground and some of the Marxist terrorist organizations that were disrupting and protesting in the 1960s. I don't think these people have really thought through what the eventual outcome of what they propose would be. I see people with signs that say, defund the NYPD. And I mean, you know what? I think we can all agree that they're like any job. There are lapses, there are people who are bad at the job, there are people with bad intentions, but we obviously need law enforcement. I am not on board for anarchy. I don't think even, there's nothing that the police could do that I can think of that would cause me to burn their vehicles and physically attack them. I was contemplating the concept of a mandamus lawsuit against the commissioner, against the mayor. I think it's very important if we want to maintain civilization that we all operate within the context of these rules that have been established for society. The things that are going on now, and it's very troubling to me, Sarah, that mainstream news and even politicians are blurring the line between the protest and the riot. And it seems quite clear that, yes, we all have the right to assemble and protest, but it's notable that just a few weeks ago, I participated in a protest at City Hall. It was a protest against closing everybody's businesses and forcing us to stay home. And the premise was, it's our First Amendment right to assemble. It's our First Amendment right to have life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. And there's all kinds of things in the Constitution that prevent the arbitrary lockdown of businesses and people's lives. But they said, no, the park is closed. There is no protest. You have to go home. It's noteworthy that no similar shutdown of the peaceful protests is happening now, even though the people in the park there were fighting for everybody's rights, black people, white people, whatever it might be. This killing of George Floyd, which is, of course, terrible and a great concern to every citizen, was just immediately polarized into a black versus white thing where people who own businesses in cities, maybe they've never been to Minneapolis, they have nothing to do with law enforcement, nothing to do with the police, they might be black themselves, these businesses are being destroyed. It's senseless, and I think it's just become clear that the protests, whether they intend to or not, are providing cover for these activities to develop throughout the day and then attack the cities at night. And it's my opinion that that should be sufficient to shut down the protests, at least in terms of the public gatherings. We have had this premise that our lawmakers have some kind of special power due to the declaration of a state of emergency from the virus. Why don't they say, hey, remember everybody, we still have this state of emergency, no 6 feet, no gathering, go home and protest online.
Oh, there's many ways to do that online, just like you said, and write your mayor, your governor, and be proactive that way in a peaceful way. I just sit back and go, what do these people think is going to come of this? What result are they trying to get other than pure evil and pure destruction? It's just, I truly have to sit back for my own sake and my own sanity, is just pray and just hope and just be, I am active in the way we're talking about, but at the same time, it's so overwhelming. And what do I tell my children? And what life are my children going to have in 10 years? What world are we giving them?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, where do you see this going in the aftermath of what's happening?
It's a very Difficult question, Sarah, because I like to remain positive, but when I walk down the street and see business after business boarded up, I spoke to some people who were, walking down the street with boards and preparing to board up their businesses. There was one set of guys that I spoke to who clearly had a foreign accent, and, you know, are these guys responsible for what happened to George Floyd? I mean, these are two people who came to America. This guy said he owned the business, he was starting the business, and he had to put up this wood. They were clearly struggling with the wood. They asked me if I would help them, and obviously I had other things to do. But, just moving around this wood, these guys could be injured. You shouldn't have to board up your business. And, there are other aspects that are affecting people's health that are maybe less obvious. I mean, I personally have decided not to wear a medical mask in public because I think it is one of these baby steps towards the mandatory vaccination that's being proposed, and we'll definitely talk about that. But I now am ordering groceries online, and so it becomes a more difficult thing where sometimes you buy too much stuff, and I'm also buying when I feel like, oh no, what happens if food deliveries can't happen tomorrow? So I'm buying a lot of stuff, and then food is maybe getting old in my refrigerator, and I'm eating in a different way than I used to. So there's so many factors that people need to keep at the top of their minds. That's a stressor as well. But this vaccination issue, Sarah, you've got to be concerned about that there in California.
I honestly, well, let's take a step back. Before this whole thing happened, before people were really thinking about vaccinations, California is making it mandatory for all children to have vaccinations. I think New York is the same. There are only 2 or 3 states that it's totally mandatory where you do not have religious exemptions or even medical exemptions. So in the state of California, for instance, the rights have been taken away, not just by the parents, but by the doctors. So if you have someone that has been injured by a vaccination, and I know people with these children that are autistic or have other injuries from the vaccination, if their personal doctor says, no, that child cannot handle another vaccination, the state has the right to say, no, doctor, your rights are taken away. You must vaccinate this child. It's to the point where the doctors don't have their rights. So here we are, and I'm fearful because I have 3 children and I have 2 children that have been severely affected by vaccinations. And I want to make it very clear, I am not against vaccinations that are clean. Vaccinations that are clean and that we know what the side effects are. Vaccinations are the one thing out there that have immunity to any legal action. So you cannot do studies on the side effects of vaccinations. On any other drug, you can. So of course the drug companies make their money on the vaccinations. Okay, so here I am sitting here as a mom in California going, what am I going to do now that the vaccinations are mandatory? Well, with this current threat and the mandatory vaccination that's coming out, adults are being threatened that they might have to take the vaccination. Yeah. So this is different now. It's not just, oh, you need to vaccinate your children. It's, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to be vaccinated. And across the country, people are not liking this. They're waking up. And I think the last statistic I heard, and tell me if you've heard differently, is that about 50% of Americans do not want to have the vaccination.
I'm certainly part of that 50%. I haven't quite seen that, but I mean, I think it is. I think it is causing people to reconsider their position on vaccines. Not that people care less about their children, but I think there was somehow this like ingrained thought process that, yeah, kids need to get vaccinated, but if I'm an adult and I haven't gotten whatever disease, then I don't need a vaccine. But I mean, you're right, Sarah, and all the stuff that you bring up, that, the Child Vaccine Injury Act of 1986 created all kinds of new laws that indemnify pharmaceutical companies and even reclassify vaccines as biological instead of pharmaceutical. And so they are not subjected to the same level of testing. This is a great topic for us to discuss because it actually covers so many of the other things that are happening right now, including the riots, the protests, coronavirus, the Russia hoax. I was just listening to Rod Rosenstein's testimony before Congress right before we began, and it's interesting how this social engineering, this type of psychological manipulation, how it works. They have a particular lie, and whether that is you're in grave danger of dying from coronavirus, or these are peaceful protesters, not Marxist anarchists trying to destroy society and terminate the United States of America, or Russia hacked the election. You know, it's so amazing to listen to this congressional testimony where Dianne Feinstein reads her opening statement that reiterates this foregone conclusion that Russia hacked the election, when only seconds later, Rod Rosenstein, the guy who was running the Department of Justice, says there is no evidence to indicate that that happened. And it's just so contradictory, but they want to keep restating and reiterating that lie. ABC News showed video of people looting stores in Manhattan and referred to them as protesters. So it's absolutely terrible. But the vaccination issue, this is a big deal. By calling these things biological, they're just not subject to testing. And like you, I'm not opposed to vaccines. I don't want to get a deadly disease. What I'm opposed to is this new idea that they're forcing everyone to be so afraid of this disease and to consider that this imaginary vaccine that doesn't even exist yet is our only hope to continue normal society, and that you're going to need to know if the people around you have it. It's been suggested that an RFID chip or some kind of quantum dot tattoo would be applied to every human on Earth to track your medical details in a way that we've never had before. And the thing that concerns me, Sarah, is just like I can't walk into the supermarket right now without a medical mask on, I think that's the precursor to a very short leap where I'm not going to be able to walk in without scanning my hand through some turnstile and proving that I have a chip, proving that I've been vaccinated. And then what happens next year when they want you to be vaccinated with something else? And what happens when they can track you everywhere and decide this Jason Goodman, he's a troublemaker. When he comes in for his next vaccine, make sure he gets the untested one, and whoops, he died.
So you touched on a few things. People have said, when I've said, what they're putting into this vaccine is nanotechnology to trace you and to track you. And I have some friends that say, well, they don't care what I do. I'm a nobody, so I don't, and they're tracking me with my cell phone already. But what they don't know is that nanotechnology has the ability to change your DNA and dumb you down. It's mind control. And I know this sounds voodoo, it sounds crazy, but it's real. Do your research. It's not just to track you. And it's all part of this plan. And I mean, you just look at how quickly the globe, not just a city, not just the country, but the globe went in line with quarantine and just did it fine. It's crazy how we all just did it and we listened. And it's just amazing how no one was questioning it. If there's anything good that came out of the quarantine, I believe people started questioning. People started getting awake and becoming awake, going, what is really going on? I saw one post on Instagram that said, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican or a person of faith, your soul has to know that there's something else going on here.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is happening, which I'm hoping more people listening today, whether they believe you or me, at least go and do your research and find conclusions yourself. We have these conversations at dinner every single night. And one of the blessings of quarantine has been a family dinners with my 3 kids, which is hard to do when they're doing sports during the regular time. And I will bring up these things that are on the forefront of the news that you don't see on mainstream media. And my kids will all laugh at me. And my husband laughs, but he's on board with everything we're talking about. And my son was saying to me last night, Mom, you think that I don't listen to you, but I listen to what you sent me because I send them podcasts and things that I want them to listen to.
Right.
And he he says, you're just so intense. And I said, well, I just want you to listen to this stuff that I'm listening to, and then you make your own opinion of it. Take the facts, take both sides, open your eyes. And that's what I'm asking everyone to do, is just open your eyes and see what comes, because when you're looking, it will come. And mainstream media, if you turn the channel, go across 5 different channels, the same rhetoric. They even use the same quotations, the same keywords, because they're being fed the exact same rhetoric to say over and over and over again. And it makes it really hard. I mean, if you know anything about psychology, when you're fed a rhetoric over and over and over again, you believe it. There's no, that's how the mind works. So you really have to work hard at questioning things.
Yeah. And I mean, whether or not people believe it, I think it definitely becomes embedded in the mind in a way that you're thinking of it. So you're sometimes tricked into believing it just due to the repetition of it. And, Sarah, you've raised another important point about some of these stressors for people, these health stressors for people who actually don't have the virus. But, I don't have children, so I don't know what it feels like to be a parent. But just listening to you speak and seeing the expression on your face, I can tell that in addition to all the stress you're feeling for yourself and your own health, you're stressing out times 5, or, your husband and your kids and all the other people. It's a real difficult situation for so many. And just to go back to the vaccine thing for a moment, I know a lot of people have seen my interview with Alan Dershowitz, where he volunteered his opinion that the government has the right, through the police powers as enumerated in the Constitution, to, rip you out of your home and take you to a doctor's office and jam a needle into your arm. He even cites a Supreme Court decision, Jacobson v. Massachusetts, where in 1905, the Supreme Court did rule that the state had the authority to mandate that this guy receive a vaccine. I've made a big effort to get the word out that it's my opinion, from looking at what Dershowitz told me to look at, that he's interpreting it incorrectly. The vaccine in question in 1905 was the smallpox vaccine that had been in use for 109 years at the time. So without going into a separate debate about the safety and the efficacy of the smallpox vaccine, there was at least 109 years of collective medical knowledge of how that vaccine interacted with the people who had been given it, and you could create an informed decision. What we're talking about now, the front runner in this vaccine, is a new type of messenger RNA vaccine that literally is intended to change our DNA, cause our cells to start manufacturing these little DNA experiments inside our bodies. And I don't think that people fully understand that. I don't think that lawmakers fully understand that. And there's certainly no collective knowledge on what the outcome of giving that type of vaccine to hundreds of millions of people will do.
Yeah, and the thing is, number one, is it legal to do it? So I want to encourage people to check out the website empowermovement.com. This is an organization that I've been involved with, and I can't remember what episode it was, but I had Cal Washington, the founder, on, and I'm hopefully going to have him on again soon. They have found essentially a loophole in where you're doing commerce with the United States of America, the corporation, or you're doing commerce with your telecommunications company, or you're doing commerce with that pharmaceutical and the vaccination, and you give them a notice of liability saying, if you cannot prove that vaccination is not going to harm me with 100%, I am going to give you a notice of liability of $10,000, for instance, and you owe me that within every single day of harm, or something like that. There's a lot more detail to it, but I want people to check it out if they really want to know their rights. And this goes for smart meters, 5G, vaccinations, all of our rights. And it really gives us the power back. So whether you're for or against any of this stuff, it really teaches you how the United States of America, the corporation, and the United States of America, the republic, work. And Cal is much more detailed in explaining this, and that's why I'm excited to have him on again. But check out the website, and you can also look back on Accelerated Health Radio. It was a couple months ago that I had him on. It will give us our rights back. So I really want to get that word out, that it's something to check out for those that are interested. And then as far as the vaccinations, the way they were first formed and created was on the right track. But now we have all of these toxins that are put in them that we don't know that the interaction of what they're going to do. And it's been proven that they cause autoimmune issues and all of these other issues. And there's so many other natural immune boosters, and that's what I specialize in. You've got the accelerated scalar silver that devitalizes all viruses, bacteria, fungus in the body. It turns the body alkaline, tastes like water, safe for the elderly, for your kids. We take it 4 to 5 times a day, especially during this time. No one in my house has even had a cough in the last few years. And my kids have not missed a day of school in the past 10 years. And Jason, my son at the age of 9 had leukemia. The boy has not missed a day of school since being on the silver and going forward. And since that, I've now understood the importance of iodine in the diet. We are all deficient. So the acceleridine actually not only helps with depression and anxiety, because an iodine deficiency is the number one predictor of depression, but it also has been known to kill viruses, bacteria, fungus, and it was used during the Spanish flu. It was the one remedy. Yes, it was the one remedy that was used during the Spanish flu. And then I've got the My Vital C. It's not a vitamin C, but it is carbon 60. It has been shown, and they've been doing studies on the fact that it actually kills and helps manage HIV, one of the worst viruses that we have had to face. And not only that, it helps you sleep, it helps reduce all the inflammation throughout the body, and it's anti-aging. It's been shown to double your lifespan. It's my new favorite. So those 3 are my top immune boosters. And none of them have side effects. So here you've got, and there's so many other immune boosters out there that you can do that are natural and safe. And then you've got the vaccination that they're pushing, and they're putting down and sideswiping all of the other, even the hydrochloroquine, and I've heard of aspirin, and all of these other things that are pharmaceuticals, but not the vaccination, and they are poo-pooing it, and these things don't work when they have been proven to work. And I highly recommend people look at the studies, and Jason, you might be interested in this. I believe that Italy and India and Germany have all come out with autopsy studies on their coronavirus victims. So that's something that I recommend people look into.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of reporting about that recently that, before we get into that, I want to remind people, and it's important to say, I always love hearing from you, Sara, because you have such great experience with these supplements and things, but because these, rules and all that, it's important for us to remind people that you and I aren't doctors. Nothing that we're saying is intended to cure, diagnose, or treat a disease. These are just anecdotal experiences that you're sharing about you and your family's experience with these supplements that I have also had good experiences with, in addition to the real serious health concerns like, dying from coronavirus or stress or any of this. The fact that nobody can leave their homes or go to their businesses has shut down, things like dentists and eye doctors and people getting, the types of things that would normally be small occurrences. I mean, if you had a cavity and let it sit in your mouth for 3 months, that might become a root canal, which could become an infection, which could be oral surgery, which could lead to a negative reaction to anesthesia. So a lot of things are being amplified by this. And again, I'm not advising anybody to do anything, but I will say that I had a really serious toothache and I could not get to the dentist. So I just kind of improvised, and I was using hydrogen peroxide to gargle and I could feel, a little sizzling on the tooth, like when you put hydrogen peroxide on a cut and it's doing its thing with the infection. But then my mouth felt really super weird from too much hydrogen peroxide. So I would rinse my mouth with the accelerated silver and then a little coconut oil. And again, I'm not recommending these things. I can't speak to the medical efficacy of it, but I went from having such a painful toothache that I couldn't even drink room temperature tap water without pain, and now I can chew on the tooth. I haven't been to the dentist. So it might be a time for people to look into some more of these health maintenance supplements and eating healthy and trying some of the products that they can get at acceleratedhealthproducts.com. Now could be a good time to try that stuff.
Well, not only that, the accelerated keto is a brand new supplement, and people may have heard of the ketogenic diet. The ketogenic diet is essentially a low carb diet, but you're eating amazing foods like prime rib and butter and coconut oil and fish and lamb and things that are full of fats and proteins, but cutting out the processed foods essentially. And what that does is it lowers your blood sugar, it helps lower your cortisol, it boosts your testosterone and your human growth hormone. But more importantly, right now, it helps with stress and anxiety and lifts that brain fog, lifts those brain issues that you have, heals your gut where your immune system is. Your immune system is 80% in your gut, and most people are walking around with something called leaky gut. And when you have leaky gut, your immune system is shut down. And so when you get exposed to a virus or a bacteria, you're going to get sick. Our body is set up, our immune system is set up to fight these things off. So we're not shut down, our body, and we're safe. So when you build up your biggest combating system, which is your immune system, against the current threat, then it has no chance. And something I wanted to mention, going back to the way vaccinations work, is when we were younger, I don't know about you, Jason, but my brother had the chicken pox, so
exactly.
we drank out of his drink. So we all got the chicken pox and got natural immunity. And that way we have lifetime immunity. When you take the vaccination, you have to get a booster every 7 years for it to work. So you tell me, have you gotten your booster for any of these other vaccinations? Or I want to ask any of these 25-year-olds who had their vaccinations in their teenage years, have they gotten their boosters? Or any 30-year-olds that are saying, well, you need to vaccinate your children, I want to ask them, have they gotten their boosters? Because otherwise the vaccinations don't work. So your natural immune system is to be exposed to these viruses that are naturally in our world and say, oh my gosh, I remember that virus, boost those antibodies, boost that immunity, and fight it off. And that's the way the immune system is supposed to work. So the vaccination is shortcutting that, and then it's only a short-term fix. And ironically, my husband, out of all people, sent me an article this morning that Dr. Fauci mentioned, and I love how he goes back and forth on all of this, that the vaccine may only have a short-term lifespan. So it will only work for a short term. So I don't know what his alternative motive is behind making that statement, but that came out this morning.
Yeah. Well, it's the thing that Dr. Fauci has been doing, in my estimation, is sort of speaking out of both sides of his mouth. I mean, when he first came to my attention, he was on TV basically saying, well, if I get accused of overreacting, that's a good thing. And I remember thinking, how the hell can the guy say that? That's basically giving himself an out so that if he overreacts and we close every business and destroy the economy and then people don't get sick, that's somehow a good thing. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier. They don't consider that, oh, you know what, we made a major miscalculation and this is not nearly as contagious or deadly as we thought. They say, oh, look, see, by locking everybody inside and ruining your businesses, we saved everyone. But that's... I mean, what have they saved us from? The city is now chaos. Every business is closed. People are worried about what they're going to do with their children. I mean, it's just so amazing what's been able to happen in a bad way. Amazing in a bad way. That it's truly stunning. The other thing about the vaccines, Sarah, is that, you know, when I was a kid, I understood that they introduced this virus, and as you said, it trained your immune system, and then you had immunity for life. For the past, I don't know when it started, but when I was a kid, we didn't have annual flu vaccines. They seem to want to inject you with something different every year. And once they get you on this path of having a chip, or whether it's in your phone, some sort of digital passport, we've been hearing a lot about that, they're going to use this to prevent people from engaging in commerce. So if they say, okay, it's unconstitutional, we can't vaccinate you, all they need is some sort of business deal with Amazon.com, American Airlines, United Airlines, Microsoft, American Express, and then that's it. If you can't do business with like those companies, think about how shut off you'd be from everything. If they don't allow you into train stations or something like that, Dershowitz even said it in our interview, your alternative to being vaccinated is to sit in your house and never interact with society.
Well, that's where my faith comes in. That's where I really hope that all of this is, and this is what I was telling my children last night, is that some of these politicians and what's really going on is it sounds so crazy, and what the way their agendas are not working, and so they're getting desperate, and that desperation is showing, and people are waking up. So my feeling is that as all of this craziness gets to a head, it's essentially going to explode, and people are going to figure out what's going on, wake up, and they're not going to stand for it. And then these big companies are going to break up. And the thought of a cashless society, and all of what you're talking about, and what you have to go through to get back on an airplane, and you're not going to be able to travel unless you're traced, and everything that goes into that. I truly believe we are in control. We, the people, are in control, and we need to speak up in a peaceful manner. But the other thing that I'm really focused on is you can't speak up and you can't think clearly if your body is in a manic, chronic, stressed state. And I'm trying to give people their power back and getting centered in their bodies, because managing their stress through all of these modalities and boosting their immune system, getting rid of that brain fog that the stress is causing, so that they can think clearly and they can start making those moves that are in their power. It feels very out of control. And that is a very stressful thing, even for me, because I've been someone who has said I had chronic health issues. I overcame them, and it gave me this feeling of power. But now I find myself in an instance where the power is being taken. I feel like the world is out of control. I feel like a lot of things are out of my control, which is a very scary thing. So it's very hard, even for me, to bring back into that control and manage that stress. But I believe, Jason, back to that point, I think that we are getting to the point where in the next couple weeks, we are going to see some things that are going to just blow us away. I think a lot of things are happening behind the scenes that mainstream media is not uncovering, and I truly believe that all of this is a setup for something that is so good that's going to happen. I believe that.
Well, I hope you're correct, Sarah. I mean, we did have the announcement from President Trump that he's named Antifa as a terrorist organization. And I agree with him. I don't think that destroying property or businesses, particularly in the organized, mass fashion. I mean, it's one type of crime. If one individual does vandalism, I'm not approving of that or saying that it's good. But when it becomes this collection of marauders who are moving through a city, it takes on a different complexion because it serves to terrorize the general public and cause people to be afraid to leave their homes. I mean, I'm a healthy, pretty able-bodied person who, frankly, I have a healthy respect for the danger of going outside this apartment. I'm not going to say I'm fearful of it, but I am fearful of it because fear is the proper response to have to. It's a basically 99.9% guarantee that going outside is going to result in some kind of conflict. And whether that erupts into a physical altercation or not is a separate matter, but it's very dangerous to go outside and people who are rightfully feeling afraid or being terrorized by these groups. So I'm hopeful that that was done not to just create Twitter rhetoric, but to enable the president and the Department of Justice to now say, hey, you know what? All these charities that are paying for the bail money for protesters that are throwing Molotov cocktails, they are now going to be criminally charged as financing terrorism. Because I do not believe that these are lawyers. There are 2 lawyers in New York who have been charged with throwing Molotov cocktails. I mean, that is straight terrorism. If you're a lawyer, these are the people who should be bringing these lawsuits against the mayor, against the chief of police. Why aren't they doing that? The second you take up a Molotov cocktail and throw it at a vehicle, you have become a terrorist. So whoever it is that's paying their bail, certainly if they're still employed by their law firms, these people need to be fired right away. And frankly, I think they should be treated as enemies of the Constitution and tried under military tribunals.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, but this stuff it's going to bring out, and you mentioned Twitter. I was thinking about the fact that what happened with President Trump and the Twitter, and because Twitter tried to censor him, he's now put social media on notice. And that's something just in the health business. I, of course, have to be very careful about what I say, right? And with that, all of the Facebook, Instagram, and not so much Twitter censors what you're allowed to say. My ads cannot say that my supplements boost the immune system. And that's just a very general term of boosting the immune system. But I'm being censored, and so a lot of things, and with that, and with what happened with Trump and Twitter, maybe that's breaking down the censorship of social media. So, with everything that seems so outrageous, I'm hoping that something good is coming from it.
Yeah, and I share that hope, certainly. I wouldn't be doing this every day if I thought all was lost. I think that we're in a very dire situation, and we're in a moment where we need to get our country back. Yesterday, in a press conference with the police commissioner, de Blasio, it was basically stated that the NYPD will be taking back control from these criminal gangs. That's a scary thought, but they do control the night. People cannot go out and go to restaurants and enjoy their lives and do business with other New Yorkers in the way that we normally would because the city is locked down as a result of these criminal riots.
Well, Jason, I hate to do this, but we are out of time and we could go on and on and on. And I love having you on. I love going back and forth with you. So thanks again for coming on. And why don't you tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, people can see the show every day on YouTube if they search for Crowdsource the Truth or go to crowdsourcethetruth.com. That's going to link you up with the Patreon and Subscribestar links where people can sponsor the show. And that's the best way to find me.
Awesome. And everybody, thank you for joining us today. And if I can help you with your health issues, contact me, Sara Banta at Sara@acceleratedhealthproducts.com. I'm happy to put a protocol directly for you, it's personalized for you. I know sometimes it's hard to know where to start. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram under Accelerated Health Products and my YouTube channel under Accelerated Health Radio. You can also find this episode and all of my episodes on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Stitcher, Pandora, or whatever podcast platform you subscribe to. I also am doing Accelerated Health Bites, where I do short informational videos about health topics and solutions that you ask me about. So if you have a health condition or a topic you want me to address, let me know. And if you like what you heard today, please hit the subscribe button on both Crowdsource the Truth and Accelerated Health Products, and share with a few friends that may need our help. As you share our channels, it helps us grow and help more people like you and bring more cutting edge guests on. Next week, I interview Ken Rolla from Fresh and Alive, and this discussion is going to continue as we dive into 5G, EMF exposure, and how to protect yourself, including the empowermovement.com. You can find my blogs, supplements, and all my informational videos on acceleratedhealthproducts.com, and make sure you use coupon Goodman15 for 15% off at Accelerated Health Products. Thanks again, and have a great week.
Thank you, Sarah.
4HC Radio for Accelerated Health.